I never thought I'd be the kind of person writing this post. The kind of person who cheats on their spouse. The kind of person who breaks vows. But here I am, sitting in my car outside a coffee shop, too ashamed to go home and face my husband, James. James and I have been married for 6 years. We met in college, dated for 3 years, and had what everyone called a perfect wedding. For the first few years, everything was amazing. We bought a house, advanced in our careers, traveled to places we'd always dreamed of seeing. But somewhere along the way, something changed. About 2 years ago, James got a promotion that required him to travel more frequently. At first, I was genuinely happy for him. He deserved it after all his hard work. But weeks turned into months of him being gone 3 to 4 days every week. Our conversations became shorter, less meaningful. When he was home, he was exhausted or catching up on work. Our intimate life dwindled to almost nothing. I tried talking to him about it several times, but the conversations always ended with promises to do better that never materialized. Enter Mark. He's a new colleague at my marketing firm who started 6 months ago. Smart, attentive, and easy to talk to. At first, our interactions were completely professional. We worked on projects together, had lunch with other coworkers. But gradually, we started staying late to finish deadlines, grabbing drinks with just the two of us after particularly stressful days. I told myself it was innocent. I told myself I was just making a friend. I told myself a lot of things that I knew weren't entirely true. Last week, James called to say he wouldn't be home for our anniversary. An important client needed him to stay an extra 2 days. I didn't even argue. I just said, okay, and hung up. That night, I texted Mark and asked if he wanted to get dinner. I knew what I was doing when I put on my favorite dress, spent extra time on my makeup, and chose the restaurant across town where nobody from work would see us. Dinner led to drinks. Drinks led to him walking me to my car. And then somehow, I was inviting him back to my place, the home I share with my husband. Everything after that is a blur of guilt and pleasure and wrongness and excitement all mixed together. We didn't even make it to the bedroom at first. Then we did, twice. He left early this morning before sunrise. I've been driving around aimlessly since then, unable to face going home. James is flying back tonight. In just a few hours, I'll have to look into the eyes of the man I promised to be faithful to, knowing what I've done. The worst part? I'm not even sure I regret it in the way I should. The sex with Mark made me feel alive again in a way I haven't felt in years. But the guilt is consuming me. What kind of person does this make me? I finally went home. After 6 hours of driving around, sitting in parking lots, and mindlessly walking through stores, I couldn't delay it any longer. The house still smelled like Mark's cologne when I walked in. I opened every window, changed the sheets, lit candles, frantic attempts to erase the evidence of what I'd done. I even flipped the couch cushions where we'd first. God, what have I done? James texted that his flight landed on time. An hour until he'd be home. I showered for the 3rd time today, scrubbing my skin raw as if I could wash away my betrayal. The hot water mingled with my tears as reality set in. This wasn't just a one-time mistake I could rationalize away. I made a series of deliberate choices that led to this moment. When his key turned in the lock, my heart nearly stopped. He walked in looking tired but happy to see me. He hugged me, and I could barely hug him back. My arms felt like lead weights. He noticed something was off right away. "Are you feeling okay?" he asked, genuine concern in his eyes. Those eyes that have looked at me with nothing but love for almost a decade. I almost broke down right there. I made up an excuse about a stressful work week. We ordered takeout, and he talked about his trip. The entire time, my mind was screaming. Every laugh felt hollow. Every casual touch from him made me flinch with guilt. After dinner, he suggested watching a movie, our old Friday night tradition that had fallen by the wayside months ago. I agreed, desperate for normalcy. As we sat on the same couch where just hours earlier I had been with Mark, James put his arm around me and said, "I've been thinking about us a lot during this trip." My blood went cold. Did he somehow know? Was it written all over my face? "I know I've been absent," he continued. "Not just physically, but emotionally too. I realized I've been taking you for granted, and that's not fair to you." He went on to explain that he'd spoken to his boss about reducing travel and had even turned down the extension of his current trip to get home to me sooner. He pulled out his phone and showed me flight confirmations for a weekend getaway he'd booked for next month, to the beach town where we had our honeymoon. "I want us to reconnect," he said, squeezing my hand. "I miss us." I excused myself to the bathroom, where I silently sobbed. The man I've loved for years was sitting out there, trying to save our marriage, while I'd been destroying it. The weight of my actions crushed me. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, not recognizing the woman looking back at me. When I returned, James had fallen asleep on the couch. I covered him with a blanket, too ashamed to wake him and suggest we go to bed together. I spent that night on the guest room bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my betrayal against the backdrop of James's renewed commitment. The next morning, Mark texted, "Last night was amazing. When can I see you again?" I deleted the message immediately, but the damage was done. The reality of having an actual affair, not just a one-night stand, suddenly seemed possible. A small, horrible part of me even considered it. The attention, the passion, the feeling of being wanted so intensely, it was intoxicating. But sitting across from James at breakfast, watching him make plans for us for the coming week with such hope in his eyes, I knew I had a devastating choice to make. 3 days have passed since that morning. 3 days of living a lie. 3 days of James making sweet gestures, bringing home flowers, suggesting date nights, texting me during the day just to say he's thinking of me. 3 days of Mark sending increasingly suggestive messages that I've responded to with vague excuses. Yesterday, I almost told James everything. We were having dinner at home, and he mentioned how much better things felt between us already. "It's amazing what a little effort can do," he said with that smile I fell in love with years ago. The words caught in my throat. I couldn't bear to see that smile vanish because of what I'd done. I've been researching marriage counselors. Maybe that's the coward's way out. Fixing our relationship without confessing my betrayal. But every time I imagine telling James the truth, I see our entire life together crumbling. The house we saved for years to buy, the future children we've planned, the trust that, once broken, might never be repaired. Mark cornered me at work today. He wanted to know why I was suddenly distant. When I told him what happened was a mistake, that I loved my husband and couldn't continue whatever was starting between us, his expression changed. The warmth I'd been so drawn to hardened into something ugly. "Your husband doesn't need to know," he said, touching my arm in a way that no longer felt exciting but possessive. "We can be careful." I pulled away and told him firmly that it was over, that I'd made the biggest mistake of my life and wouldn't compound it by continuing. He laughed and said, "You'll change your mind. The damage is already done. Might as well enjoy yourself." His words have been echoing in my head all day. Is he right? Is my marriage already fatally wounded, whether James knows it or not? Or is there still something worth saving? Tonight, I finally broke down. James found me sobbing in our bathroom. He held me, stroked my hair, asked what was wrong. And I told him, not everything, not yet, but that I'd been feeling lonely and disconnected for so long that I'd started to lose myself. "I don't want to lose us," I whispered. It was the most honest I'd been in months. He looked at me with such tenderness that it physically hurt. "We won't lose us," he promised. "Whatever's wrong, we'll fix it together." Tomorrow, we have our first appointment with a marriage counselor. I don't know if I'll find the courage to confess. I don't know if keeping this secret is another betrayal, or if revealing it would just be transferring my guilt onto him. I don't know if our marriage can survive either choice. What I do know is that the momentary pleasure I felt with Mark wasn't worth this torment. It wasn't worth questioning every aspect of my character, my marriage, my future. It wasn't worth the look I know would be in James's eyes if he found out. I'm terrified of losing him. I'm terrified he'll never look at me the same way if he knows the truth. I'm terrified that even if he forgives me, I'll never forgive myself. To anyone reading this who's contemplating cheating, it's not worth it. The few hours of excitement and validation are nothing compared to the lifetime of trust you're gambling with. I'd give anything to go back to that night and make a different choice. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't know if confessing is the right thing to do or if some secrets are better left buried. All I know is that I still love my husband, more than I realized until I betrayed him. And now I have to decide if saving our marriage means telling the truth, regardless of the consequences, or carrying this burden alone to spare him the pain my selfishness has created. Whatever happens, I'll update this post after our counseling session. I need to find a way forward, whether that's together or apart.